Hi, I'm Ames Asbell. I teach viola at Texas State University, and today we're working on the Mazas Etude number 26, Polonaise, and we'll be looking at the middle section, the double stop section between measures 37 and 52. As you look at this section, you'll notice that it's just the same 8-bar phrase repeated. So we'll just be looking really at the first 8-bar phrase. And really, if you look at that, really dissect it further, you'll notice it's really a 4-bar pattern that then is repeated, slightly simplified version in piano. So the bulk of our work today is going to be on those first 4 measures in this section, measures 38, 39, 37, 38, 39, and 40. Okay. So double stops are a special challenge on stringed instruments. You really need some good practice techniques to figure out how to coordinate your left hand choreography, managing 2 sets of notes at one time or 2 fingers at the same time, and then also with the bow, really figuring out how to pull the sound evenly from 2 strings at once. So I actually recommend starting with that. You can just play some double stops on the A and D strings and the D and G strings, because that's what we're using. I think it's good to always practice double stops with a nice strong mezzo forte or forte sound, so you'll really hear the core of the pitches, and that really helps you tune better also. So one thing you can really do to prepare yourself well for this, and we get so hung up with the left hand, we forget about the bow. One of the really great things you can do to help yourself prepare for this is to just play the passage with just open strings. So for example, you just start on the D and A, ready, play. So on. That's a really good way to practice, just to get your bow ready for what the left hand is going to do, because if your bow is not firm, you won't hear the real core of the pitches, and you won't get the most out of your left hand practice if your bow is not firm. So it's a good place to start. Now, double stops with the left hand. We need some real strategies to figure out how to play these. So I kind of like to practice double stops in 2 stages. So the first stage is just single double stops at a time. I do them out of time, separate bows, just to be sure that I'm really building the left hand choreography the right way. And I like to start with one note and add another, so I can really make sure everything's in tune as we go on. I think that's a good strategy. I do it forte, out of time, single notes. So we'll do that method first, and then I'll show you a way to kind of add more of the musical elements back in. So first, the building blocks. Double stop practice. There are 3 kinds of double stops, and they each need to be approached a little bit differently. And it's interesting they kind of come right here in order, right in the beginning of this excerpt. So if you look at it, the first double stop in measure 37 is an open string and a fingered note. So in these double stops, we always have to make sure that we tune to the open string, make sure your instrument is really well in tune before you start. And so you'll start with the open string and then add the fingered note. I can do that better, right? And what I did is just I put my finger down and I left it, but what's more helpful to you will be practicing placing that finger. So you get lots of chances and you're really practicing placing it in the right place. If it's not in the right place, you can move it, but what's more effective is picking it up and putting it back down in the right place. That way you're not practicing putting your finger down in the wrong place and moving it around, but you're practicing putting it down in the right place over and over again. Okay? So that second type of double stop, these are more difficult, these are the most difficult I think, are perfect fifths. And so perfect fifths is when you are using the same finger to play on 2 strings at once. And if you look in measure 37, the second double stop is one of those kinds. It's a 3 on G string, the note C, 3 on G string, D string, the note G. So what I find really helpful to do here, so that you're not kind of trying to move your hand all around, a lot of times you'll see people trying to just adjust until they get it in tune, and that can be very dangerous because then you're pulling your hand out of tune for all the other notes around it. So instead of doing that, I just imagine that there's a string. You've got an extra string that's going down right in between the 2 strings you're playing on, and you're going to try to center your finger right on those two strings. That method works pretty well. So you're just going to imagine you're going to put that finger right in between, and hopefully your fingertip and your pad are wide enough to cover both strings. So there it is for me. This one is less important to build from one than add the other, because if you do, you run the risk of doing this stuff, which is not really well in tune. So for the fifths, try imaginary string right in the middle, and you notice that works pretty well. Okay, third type of double stop is where we're using two fingers. I always like to start from the lower finger and add the higher finger, because you can really see, at least in the early stages of learning my double stops, I can really see how to put the finger down. So the third double stop here, A and F, is a great example of that. So I really can hear the A and then add the F and then hear them together. And if it's not in tune, again, pick it up and practice placing it again. Don't just wiggle your fingers around till they're in tune and leave it, because then you've practiced putting the finger down in the wrong place and just wiggling it. So those are the three types of double stops. Those are the ways to practice them. You'll find all of them in this passage. And as you're going through, I just play one at a time. The difficult moment will come on the open C. Now you're like, wait, how's that the most difficult moment? The way it's the most difficult moment is during that open C in the third measure, you have to shift and find your E. So you're playing along, you've played all these double stops. Then we get to open C. While we're playing open C, we're finding E. So what you just saw was my practice method for this. So we'll go open C, shift to E, E, and add B flat. Okay? So when you're practicing the single double stops, be careful about that moment. Also, when you're practicing the single double stops, we'll go do the bowing as it comes in the fourth measure. I'd suggest that you keep the up in measure 38 going to 39, but don't do, when you're first learning this, don't worry about the 5 up bows, because you're going to be really scrambling and trying to fit as much into the bow as you can, and you won't get the best tone. So let's do a slow play through note by note. I'm not going to talk you through it very much, but I'm just going to play. We can play together double stop by double stop through this section. I'll coach you just a little bit as we go, but if you'd like to play along, I'll just give you a ready go. So here we go. Again, out of rhythm. Ready, play. Imaginary string. Imaginary string. That one wasn't very good for me. I'll do it again. 2 and 4 is a big stretch here. We're going to do 2 up bows. C, shift to E. We're going to open A and a 4th finger C. Shift to first position. Half position. Good. So once your building blocks are good, you can just do the double stops. Play through that way. Once you're getting pretty good at that, the next step is what I call single line practice. Single line practice is you're fingering both of the notes, just playing the passage as you would be fingering both notes, but you're only going to bow one line. And this is really helpful because orally gives you an idea, this gives you an idea of how each line sounds by itself, and allows your brain to sort of learn that sound, and it actually will really help you once you start playing the lines together. It also allows you to work on musical elements such as bow distribution, dynamics. It really helps you put this in musical context. Okay, so So we'll do that right now. We'll just play through slowly. I'll count you off again before we start, and let's start with the bottom line. So we're fingering both, just bowing the bottom. So 1 and 2 and ready, play. But you'll see that I made a little decrescendo and I started moving my bow over to the fingerboard. So when you get to the piano section, you'll do that the same way. Okay, now let's do the same single line practice, but we'll bow the top line, and I'll count you off again. So 1 and 2 and ready, play. Once again, we will continue. I didn't do a great decrescendo that time, but as you're going through those 5 notes, make sure each one gets softer. All right? So I'll do a playthrough now of this whole 8 bars. I'll play all the way through to the end of measure 44. You'll notice that I'm vibrating. I don't vibrate much when I do practicing the double stops because we want to lay down a really strong foundation. But once you have them fairly well in tune and they're pretty consistent, you can start to add vibrato. All right, so I'll count you off. We'll play together if you'd like, and we will do this whole 8-bar section, measure 37 to 44. 1 and 2 and ready, play. Okay, well, happy practicing. Good luck with your double stops, and thanks for joining us today.